Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of The Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel to check out today's video. And guys, today I got some both commentary and a tip I want to give you. We're going to be talking about why some anglers consistently catch bigger bass than other anglers. I see this on just recreational fishing. I see it in tournaments, and I got some theories on this. No, actually, they're more than theories. They're, realities of the situation I want to pass on down to you guys, and hopefully it'll help you guys benefit from that in the long run here. Also, guys, a big thank you out there to everybody that's been, taking advantage of my on-the-water lessons. Guys, we've had a lot of interest in that. If you're interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, it's a great way to learn more about a technique you want to get more familiar with. I do most of my lessons here in Missouri on Table Rock and Stockton Lake, and just shoot me a private message on my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, for the details. Get you all set up with that. And also, guys, please check out Tackle Warehouse has got a bunch of good sales right now on rod and reels. If you're looking to get one, I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description. If you guys can use that link, it's a good way to support the channel. And thank you very much for people that have been doing that. From me and my family, really appreciate it. Okay, one of the things I've noticed in tournament fishing, guys, is that in tournaments, it's like, say consistently throughout the course of a year, every tournament, maybe half of the field catches a limit of bass every single day of the tournament. Just on average, maybe half the field does. But there's always a group of anglers out there, usually like 10% of the anglers, that, let's say, for example, the 50th place or the middle of the pack limit is 8 pounds for a limit of 5 fish. There's 10% of the anglers out there that always weigh 11 or 12 pounds. They're always catching bass that are about a half a pound or a pound bigger than everybody else consistently. And I got noticing about this because I got noticing some people, they were consistently catching bass, limits and fish, and then other people consistently catch bigger fish. And then I started examining their techniques, and most of the time they're using the same stuff. It's like one guy catches 8 pounds of fish on a crankbait, and the next guy catches 14 pounds of fish on a crankbait. So what is it that enables certain people to catch consistently larger bass all the time? There's a couple different things I want to talk about with this. First of all, one of the things that you can't deny about that is lure choice. There are simply certain baits out there that bigger fish prefer day in and day out, but that's not as important as the other things I'm talking about. Normally, consistency, if you're going to average bigger fish, you got to fish those lures that produce bigger fish. So in other words, if you love to fish a drop shot and a shaky head, something like that, or a Ned rig, you may be the best person out there getting a limit, but you're not catching the size of fish of somebody that uses a chatterbait or a bigger spinner bait, or football head jig or something like that. They're just certain lures out there that are more prone to catching larger fish under certain conditions. So that's the minor part of it. The major part of it is things like where you're fishing at, your casting angles, your speed of retrieve, timing, all that type of stuff. Now, in order for you to consistently catch these bigger fish, you have to be where those bigger fish live at. And one of the things that I found out about bass is that bass group up into certain areas, not necessarily school up. They do at times, but not necessarily all the time. But they have certain parts of the lake that simply hold bigger fish. And the common thread amongst all that is those areas usually have either a complex amount of cover, a diversity of cover, like a mix of grass, lily pads, docks, trees, whatever, and you have some type of a proximity to deeper water, and it's a fairly large area. So when you have more of those combinations coming into play, like a vast area with lots of cover and lots of deep water, it simply is probably going to hold bigger fish than if you just junk fished, or say you're back in a creek arm and you've got a creek that's got maybe some rock transition and 2 or 3 boat docks, but not a lot of diversity and cover. Those areas may not have the bigger populations of quality fish in there. That's one aspect. Another aspect of it is the depth you're fishing. This is a big one here, guys. If there's probably one out there that I can tell you about that makes more of a difference than anything, it's the depth range that you're fishing. Now, that depth range can be anywhere from on the top, like a topwater lure, down to 50 or 60 feet. And sometimes there's a big difference between catching small fish and catching bigger fish just by a couple feet in the depth you're fishing. Let me give you a prime example about this, guys. I was fishing a square bill a couple years ago in the summertime here up in Missouri in some stained water area. The area I was fishing was about 1.5 to 2 foot of visibility, and I was fishing a square bill, throwing it on 15-pound test line, just throwing it down rocky banks and fishing lay down trees and whatever. And I was catching quite a few fish, but most of them were small fish. They were like 12, 13 inches. One thing that I did, and I sort of did this just out of coincidence, I wasn't really intentionally doing it. I had only had like 2 rods or 3 rods with me that day, so I didn't have a lot to experiment with. And I did have one rod that had 8-pound test line on a spinning rod. So I put a square bill crankbait on that 8-pound test line with the spinning rod and started making long casts down at Rocky Bank. And that 8-pound test on the spinning rod allowed that square bill crankbait to get down like 2 foot deeper. And guys, I wound up over the next like hour and a half or so catching like a 14 or 15-pound limit of fish simply by getting that bait down a little bit different, just a little bit deeper. So a lot of times it can be just those really minor changes that you have to make, what I just talked about there. But overall, guys, without getting this big old long video going, I just wanted to let you know that if you want to consistently catch bigger fish, number one, pick the lures, that produce bigger fish. Also, sometimes certain colors produce bigger fish. Keep in mind that, the size of your lure is impactful. The area that you're fishing, make sure you got plenty cover in deep water, and pay attention to the depth zone that those fish are in, the better fish. Sometimes the better fish, there may not be as many of them in a certain depth zone, but they are larger. So it's tough, man. It's that if it was easy, everyone would do it. That's why only 5% of the anglers out there consistently catch bigger ones all the time. So anyway, I hope it helps you guys out. We'll talk later.